Right, so Alien Romulus, the trailer dropped. It dropped yesterday. It was a teaser trailer. The true definition of a teaser, I think, personally, this is what a teaser trailer should be. Very little information, enough cinematography. You could see the cinematography. You could see some bits and pieces. It gives you enough of the vibe, the tone, the aesthetic, and that's about it. And I tell you what, it was absolutely glorious.
Fair.
That was a phenomenal trailer. It was an absolutely brilliant trailer. It gives you just enough, but not nothing really. And I sincerely hope that 20th Century Fox does not begin to just completely blow their load moving forwards in the coming months with more and more footage. I have heard that Fede Alvarez is personally overseeing the marketing of this movie.
Nice.
He's very, very involved. So I would hope that they then, stick with what he obviously wants them to do and not, blow their load on the marketing. But it's a fantastic trailer. And let's pull up let's pull up the trailer basically. But whilst I'm doing that, what did you guys think of the trailer, the teaser trailer?
I when I react to it initially, I thought it was really good. Now, after seeing it a couple more times, I'm going to say it's great for a lot of reasons, but mostly because they really just threw you right in the middle of the action, so that you could kind of get surrounded or engrossed by the aesthetic. And I loved the sound effects, the little bit of a score that you get to hear. All of that is like perfect, and it does whet your appetite. And and you're right, it didn't reveal too much. It seemed like a return to form, in that there's that impending feeling of dread, yeah.
I mean, it's been out for one day. It's number 1 on trending.
Yeah.
It's 7.1 million views, 106,000 likes, and not even 6,000 dislikes. That is how you do a teaser trailer.
Yeah,
that's how you do it. That's how you do a teaser trailer. Andre, what did you think of it? Just brief thoughts, and then we're gonna.
I was very pleasantly surprised. Very pleasantly surprised for the same reason that you guys mentioned. It's a perfect teaser trailer. It shows the tone and the atmosphere, and tonally and atmospherically, it is exactly what it needs to be. It has that haunting feeling, haunted mansion kind of thing in space, with the threat of the alien and everything. Female lead, which an alien movie is well justified in having. Cool, bring it on. Honestly, I don't even want to see any more trailers. I'm quite happy with this one. I kind of wish that movies would just have an amazing teaser trailer, which gives the tone and the atmosphere, and then just leave it like that. And the Alien and Terminator movies, certainly in the past, have had some great teaser trailers, only to be ruined by later full trailers. So I agree with you. I hope that is not the case here.
Absolutely agreed. Yeah, I would be happy with this just being it now. That would make me. I'll be done.
Promise, it would make you happy. It would make me happy. It would make many others who consider themselves far truer fans than me happy as well. But in order to bring in the general audience, they may need a little bit more, I should imagine. But
very
anyway,
true.
Yeah,
very true. But I thought what we'd do is just take a look at it basically, and we've got an interview with Fede Alvarez to take a look at as well, because I did my sort of reaction and breakdown to this, and then he'd actually done his own one, which released not at the same time as a trailer. I think it released a little bit afterwards. And some of the stuff which I sort of guessed, I was right about. So, but I thought we'd just take a look. So overall, the aesthetic is bang on, is brilliant. So not overly sure what this is. It is a Weyland-Yutani vessel. It has very similar thrusters to the Nostromo. And almost looks a bit like a development of one of the landers in Covenant. So obviously, a newer version of it, a more developed version of it, I guess. But they've nailed the sort of retro futuristic look. You can all chime in whenever you want, basically, on comments and things like that.
Well, I agree. And this is something that Fede Alvarez said, that he wanted to go back to the look of the original with the retrofuturism. Well, of course, it wasn't that when it was made, but it is now.
Yeah,
with the 70s screens and everything. But that's kind of what it needs to have in order to feel like it belongs in the same universe.
Yes.
When you go with the modern LCD touchscreens and stuff, it's not going to feel like the same universe. So you really have to go with the aesthetic of the original movies, and this one appears to be doing that, and that is incredibly positive, you ask me.
Yeah, 100%. So apparently, what we now know as well from an interview that happened, the space station is called something else. It's a research facility, and then there's two segments. There's two modules, Romulus and Remus, two different modules on the space station.
That's perfect naming, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I love this. I absolutely adored this shot because I'll roll it forward a little bit, and you'll watch the light sort of come in, scope around, and it sort of moves up and down a little bit. You see that as it moves, the light. Now that you see, yes, you see the light, yes, good, cool. Respond. Very, very reminiscent to the opening of Aliens, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, it wasn't a light; it was a scanner. But there's all these little teases that sort of come through as we're sort of, there's the flavor of the original movies there. And what they've done here as well with this space station, this whole aesthetic, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Alien Isolation, but this aesthetic is the Alien Isolation aesthetic.
Like the game.
I've never played it, know of its existence, but I don't know any more than that.
Yeah, well, if you want to shit your pants, play Alien Isolation. That is a scary ass game. Genuinely a scary ass game.
Well, and
I
again,
played Alien 3 on the Sega Mega Drive. That helped.
It's a little bit more forward than that, but it's really good. Rule of thirds. Look at this shot for the rule of thirds, the cinematography sort of masterclass. This is beautiful,
perfectly framed,
and we're seeing various shades here. So what I liked about the opening of this teaser trailer, you see shades of Alien, right? So this is Alien. You see shades of Aliens, Alien Isolation, all in one, all in the space of what's that? 8 seconds.
Yeah,
that's pretty bloody impressive that you're managing to pay an homage to all of those things. Very, very, very good. And obviously, if we could hear it, you would hear all these sort of screams and stuff like that as they sort of were coming down through here. Love all of the scrollers. They're sort of, I don't know, little computer things on the walls. Whatever you'd be looking at there. But they've nailed the aesthetic, absolutely nailed the aesthetic. And I want to fast forward a little bit more. I'll actually literally just move it now. Now to here, which I really, really like this. Because again, very much that Alien Isolation aesthetic, Weyland-Yutani logo embossed there on the wall of the door frame. And then you're like, oh yeah, something's not quite right here. Sorry. What's that? Some blood? What's that? Absolutely pouring with blood. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed this. Hopefully you did. Do you know what these things are or not?
Are those the pods?
They are stasis chambers. Yes, indeed. Now, one is closed.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting. One's closed. You've got to look at these things because one is closed and two is open. And one's pissing with blood everywhere. So you've got to ask yourself, why is one closed? Why are two open? Why has one got loads of blood in it? What's the deal? It's interesting. Very, very interesting. I think.
See
and
the
then
shadow
that voice that comes through saying "run."
Yeah. Look at that.
And I was gonna say, what did you think of this shot? All the facehuggers coming through.
Oh, it's so great.
That's a classic Alien shot right there. I mean, that should be straight from the 79 movie. Only, here's the interesting thing, because again, I haven't played this Alien Isolation, but I noticed that the color palette is more red-like as opposed to greenish, which is on the upper side of the color wheel. But it works for the same tone, and also to separate itself from that, I guess.
Some people are saying it's too dark. I don't know
What are
on
they
my screen,
looking
I
at?
can see it.
Maybe they should do something with their screen. I mean, this image
I was
right
gonna say,
here is certainly not too dark.
yeah, that's what I thought. But one thing to notice about the face huggers is that they are a different color, right? These are darker. So speaking about being dark, these are actually darker face huggers. So that's interesting. Now, there was a slight, not really a spoiler, it's an aesthetic choice about these face huggers. There's a barb on their fingers now. There's a new addition, right? There's a new addition to as they clamp down, there's barbs that sort of jam on and dig into your flesh to hold themselves there. But there's about 10 that jump out here. I counted them. Fucking 10. 10. You'd absolutely shit your pants.
Man,
Great aesthetic, great set design, so much homage. It's beautiful. And people will go, yeah, but it's not moving things forward. It doesn't need to move things forward, right? They tried to move things forward into a different direction before, and it completely failed. This is good. This is the same universe. It's the same companies. They have to have the same aesthetic across the corporate board. It makes sense.
Yeah, by
So
the looks of it, this is exactly what we need.
Return to basics. And and this confirms all the leaks that we've been getting too. So,
well, someone says too clean, not lived in look. What trailer are you looking at, mate? We've just looked at horrible corridors that are all dark and gross. This is a research station. It has upper and lower levels. Clean, nice areas for research, obviously, scientific, and then gross lower levels for all the maintenance stuff. So it is actually lived in because, oh, there you go. There's some lived in gross stuff. Great shot. Great shot.
The use of light and shadow and color. I mean, the palette of that shot alone is incredible.
Yeah.
I just and it's like you've been through these hallways, and then you see that, and that's one of the things that caught my eye when I was watching the trailer the first time. I'm like, this looks like the original movie. This feels like that, and it's it's the same. It's got the same aesthetic as you would appreciate because it's the same kind of space station construction. It's really cool.
Well, even this, have you not played Alien Isolation, Culture?
No,
mate.
yeah, I've heard nothing
Terrible.
but good things about it. But
well, this shot is textbook Alien Isolation, throwing a flare for the alien or presumably something that's chasing them to go towards this sort of circular all these things in the way, the things on the side, all these items. This is Alien Isolation. That is, you look at just go to YouTube and Google Alien Isolation medical bay run. It'll look identical to this, right? It's so cool. So cool. Absolutely brilliant.
That is brilliant, because that is something that many will be familiar with. It could be that the whole generation, especially of gamers, are more familiar with that aesthetic than they are with the original movies. I mean, I'm curious how many have played the games without having seen the movies they're based on. I'm sure that's quite a few. In order to make sure that you bring in those, that is actually a really good move to reference those games, especially when you can do it in a way where you incorporate the game aesthetics, maybe something else from the games as well, while keeping it consistent with the original movie aesthetic as well. I mean, that's how you do it.
Yeah. So I actually know who this is, so I'm not going to say anything about this. This is a spoiler, just as an FYI. So I'm not going to say anything about this character because I do know who this is now. I didn't when I watched the trailer, but subsequently my source has now informed me who this is. But the interesting thing is the wording here. So it's netic. So I think this is part of the genetic lab on Romulus. Oh, we've got a big banner just on the screen there. Nice. Okay. Not with the trailer running. But again, so I just love it. I love everything about this. I think they've nailed it.
Yeah.
Again, this looks lived in. This looks gross and dingy and dirty and horrible. Everyone's saying it looks too lived in. Yeah, The parts which need to be clean, but the dingy parts, no.
Well, and again, I mean, I can understand why you would say this is dark. I mean, also it's competing with the scrolling background we have here on our screen as well. So, but I I love it because it looks that. Well, look at that shot.
Yes, rule of thirds. The rule of
Yeah.
thirds, guys. This is someone who knows how to shoot a film, which is important. It is important. Taking care, taking deep care about it all.
Yeah, it's that is such a great shot. It really
Well,
is.
this chap plays a synthetic, so he's a synthetic. Wayland Yutani on his jumpsuit there. This shot was interesting. I like this one. This is the aftermath of impregnation. You can see she's pulling it out. Right? Just super gross, eh? Like nasty as hell, man. But apparently they made a lot of the practical stuff, which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, they really did. Like, I mean, that's ugh. Nasty. Love this shot. Love this shot. Just sort of floating through space. Just, yeah, okay. No idea. This shot is very reminiscent of original Alien as well. Lambert. This is like a Lambert homage, but quite nicely done, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's this shot.
That is.
But it's not a lot. We're not seeing a lot, you know. We see this, for instance, as well. This the blasters coming on the space station. Their ship being caught underneath it briefly. For whatever reason. No idea. This is an interesting one. So obviously this is a bit of a canon for the character. They're not going to show this if it's anyone important. It would imagine it's just a cannon fodder character. But it goes to show that they don't know what it is at that point. They don't know what they are. So that, you know,
yeah. Also, the haircut of that individual, when you look at the past Alien movies or the chronologically future Alien movies, that's a nice prison colony haircut right there. Also looks like a prison haircut, the prison colony uniform. So that would make for a very nice cannon fodder, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, I'd say prison, absolutely, but I'd also say that it could be a mining.
Same difference.
Yeah,
isolated place where you do hard labor and you don't have the most ideal of conditions, and you don't necessarily know what you're up against. But for a company like Wayland Yutani, you're an excellent person that no one is going to miss, and prone to accidents anyway. And a good candidate for see what happens in an encounter with a facehugger.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And then we get this shot, which he speaks about in an interview, the director, so we'll get to that in a minute. This is our lead, Kaylee Spaney. And this is what I loved. I loved this because when she turned, obviously, you know, people will see this shot and go, oh, Aliens, you know, it's a rip-off from Aliens. Yeah, it is a bit. Of course it is. But also, if you are fighting an alien and you do come out of an elevator, you're not just going to waltz on out of an elevator. You are going to be a bit cautious, right? So it does make sense. It very clearly it's an homage, but it's contextually in universe. It does make sense. Yeah. But look what she has in her hand. This, ladies and gents, is an early model M41A pulse rifle. It's not the pulse rifle that they have in the Colonial Marines, but it is an early version of it. That's so cool. The attention to detail.
I like that he's spent this much time doing this. I just want this to be good.
I hope it will be. I really hope so. Because with Fede Alvarez, I was never ever worried about the tone or atmosphere. I may have some story worries. Like, I don't know the story. I know that you have spoilers. I haven't heard any, so I don't know. But I hope it's going to be great. I really, really do. And with Fede Alvarez, it has the potential to be at least atmosphere-wise.
Well, it's going to be set 20 years after the original Alien film, and so that's 30 years before Aliens. So it's literally just squarely in the middle.
That's a
And
good
here we
place to
have,
be.
yeah, and here we have our friendly neighborhood alien just dropping by. Fantastic practical effects work. Again, nice to see.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, brilliant. There, done. Boom.
I love the font. Can we also just say that I love that they use the font of the original movie instead of doing something super duper fancy as you have seen in like later Alien iterations, whereas this is a return to the classic with the classic font. I mean, sometimes the simple is the best, and don't muck with it.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. But again, this is how you do a teaser. 7.2 million views in one day. 106,000 upvotes. Not even 6,000 dislikes. That's how you do it. That's a teaser. That's a teaser and a half. Absolutely amazing.
Looks good.
And this will probably please a whole bunch of people. So I thought we'd take a look at this interview. This is on over on avpgalaxy.net. And so they say some stuff. So the first thing anyone watching, this isn't their interview. This is an interview. They just compiled the interview, basically. It says the first thing anyone watching the new trailer will be struck by is how your film's retro-futuristic production design recalls a Nostromo. Is it your hope that Romulus will feel of a piece with Ridley Scott's Alien? It was the era I was most interested in when we were thinking about making this movie, he says. And we're suddenly faced with so many choices. Where do you start? That's what I wanted it to be. That era of science fiction, and particularly that physical space of the first movie. So it starts there, honestly. And there were narrative reasons why. It takes place 20 years after the first film. Technology, and this is interesting, technology in the world of Alien can change vastly, but it's not dependent on time. It's dependent on place, where you are. So he's actually saying here, and this is smart. He's saying that the technology in the universe is actually class dependent. It's wealth dependent. It's where you are situated in the social hierarchy, which
makes a lot of sense.
Be.
Yeah.
It actually would be.
Yeah.
Right? That makes perfect. I mean, that's how it is right now. That's how it's going to be even more of in the future, the way things are shaping up to be.
Exactly. Deep Space Miners aren't going to have access to what they had in, say, I know a movie which everyone hated, but Prometheus, right? They're just not. If you're going to compare it to the technology elements, I think they nailed that. That's so good. So he says this. So the characters of this movie and the world are very blue collar. So going back to what, you alluded to prisons, I said maybe mining. So that's basically that, right?
Of course, yeah, I agree. Mining with the same difference. I mean, in a future where basically it's a matter of what's your socioeconomic status and how much money you have. I mean, for the companies like Wayland Yutani, is there any difference between a penal colony and a mining colony? They're going to see them as equally different. They're poor pleb, both of them.
It says the technology is still very low tech and analog. And look, I'm a kid of the 80s. Any monitor with some VHS tracking issues puts a lot of joy in my heart. Now, this will please a lot of people. Speaks about practical effects. Just like anybody else, I've been appalled by bad CG in movies that have ruined my experience of it. This is Fede Alvarez, the director, speaking. But I'm not against it. I think you have to do whatever's best for the shot, and whatever technique does it better, you should do it. We went to crazy extents in this movie to do things practically. We had Weta Workshop doing a lot of the face huggers. And not only that, we brought back the guys that worked on Aliens. Shane Mahan, who sculpted the Queen's head himself, was in charge of building all the xenomorphs for our movie. That's amazing. And when I say build, we built them. We did full animatronics for all the creatures in this movie. It was one of the best experiences of my career just to see these guys that I admire so much back working together. There were moments when we'd need 9 puppeteers to make a creature work. And you had all those guys now in their 60s under the table. And I'm there with them because there's not enough hands. I got to be under the table puppeteering these things with the guys that worked on the original Aliens. So that's been the best part. And then CG just comes when you really go, oh, well, if we do something here, we could do something really cool that the puppets never could. Like, the facehuggers jumping, for instance, the way that they were smashing through stuff. And then you go, but we already tried and we really succeeded. That's great news, right? Thoughts on that?
That's awesome.
Exactly what we needed to hear. Basically, it's going to look and feel exactly like the original. Don't get too overboard with CGI. And I will say, I think that in the last 10, 15 years, visual effects, especially CGI effects, have regressed. As in, I think movies put out now have worse special effects than movies released 10 years ago. I would not trust an Alien movie with CGI effects to look any good in this day and age. Not without it costing 300 million, and even then you could tell that it's completely fake in a different way. Whereas when you go with practical and just CGI augmented to remove the too overtly practical look, you can't go wrong with it.
Agreed. And so here's I was right. It is a pulse rifle. You have to think that our movie is decades before Aliens. So the pulse rifle, as people know it from Aliens, has not been invented yet. We can go really deep into the canon rabbit hole, but the pulse rifle was invented a few years before Aliens by this general. This is a precursor, but it's technically pulse technology, what she's holding. And yes, of course, the story called for a moment when she was coming out of an elevator. And obviously, you don't just walk out of an elevator casually in an Alien movie. So when we're about to do it, we all knew if you walk out of the elevator, it better be an incredible shot. So we took a lot of care, making sure that she stepped out of the elevator in the coolest way possible. Now, yeah, of course, some of it's an homage. And yeah, he may have even written it like an homage. But I think that's okay. I think that's a bit fun. I think that's fine. I think that's, it's a visual thing. I think it works. But also, look, it's a guy that understands the law.
Yeah.
It's someone that knows and is going, yeah, okay. I mean, we're going to look at another, not look at the trailer, but look at the response to another trailer in today's video, guys. And that's someone who just shat all over the law. So we've got to give him props. This is great. And we bang on about CG in movies. I mean, this is great. This is absolutely brilliant. And then he speaks about the inspiration for there being kids in the movie, which is a lot of people's complaints. But I like his explanation. I actually like it. So he says she's a young character. All the characters are very young. That was inspired by the beginning of the extended cut of Aliens. There's a shot that really inspired the whole story, where you can see all the kids running around the corridor on Hadley's Hope. And I always thought, wow, what would it be like for those kids to grow up in a terraforming colony that still needs another 50 years to be habitable? You're probably going to take the same job as your parents. What's the hope? And I thought, wouldn't it be great to catch up with those characters? Not exactly those characters, but that type of young kid growing up in a Weyland-Yutani shake-and-bake colony and see how their life would be when they reach their early 20s. What do they want out of life? Do they want to stay there and do what their parents did, work the mines, work the farms, and that's it? Or do they want more out of life? And that was what kickstarted the whole journey of this character. It was something I always fascinated with. Maybe it's because I'm from Uruguay and the idea of growing up in a place where you know how far you can get and the things that happen there and the things that will never happen there. So at the time, I always connected with those characters. I think that's a great reason. That's the inspiration behind. That's literally the inception point of the movie.
I think it's an excellent explanation for why you would do that, and it does speak to a lot of people's experiences. So I mean, are you stuck being a miller like your father before you? Are you stuck being a carpenter? Is that your lot in life, right?
Yeah. I buy the explanation, but I'm looking forward to seeing the execution, let's say.
Me too.
Explanation is one thing. but I want to see the execution, and I do like my characters to have a little bit of maturity. To me, this comes across like, oh, studio decided we need to have young characters so that the modern audience have someone to identify with, and we cooked up this reasoning after the fact. That's the cynical side of me. So I want to see the execution, and if these feel like genuine characters and that's motivation, it works with the movie. Awesome, but I want to see that work.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Valid point, I guess, to a degree. We don't know, obviously, it's execution. But there'll always be an air of maturity in the Alien universe anyway, because the synthetics, no matter what age they look, they are the mature ones. So there will be an air of maturity in this movie. That black guy is a synthetic, so he will be mature by default. He has to be. It's his character. Because they don't make him childlike. So, yeah. And anyway, then he also just discussed some bits and pieces and said about how he consulted with Ridley Scott and James Cameron. They each provided notes. They were different notes, and he sort of took what worked and what didn't. But, still were taking notes from everyone there.
In other words, he rejected the notes from Ridley and took aboard the ones from James Cameron, is what that sounds like to me.
Well, no, they just says everyone's notes were completely different. I mean, I could read it all out, but we've been on this section for quite a long time now. But yeah, he just said it's also fascinating because Cameron and Scott's notes and comments are completely different. They wouldn't repeat a note. Whatever Ridley said, Cameron said something different. They were all super smart comments, notes, and thoughts on the film and the filmmaking, etc. But both of them have completely different approaches. So the fantastic part of being able to make this film is to have the chance to work with them, which it would be, you're in this world, you would want to work with them in that regard, I'm sure, especially if you're sort of infatuated with that the sort of filmmaking process and what they do. As much as we rag on Ridley Scott, he's a fantastic cinematographer. So
yeah.
Any final thoughts? I'm making you all go watch this day one. I mean, Andre, if it falls on a Thursday.
Oh, I'd see it a day one anyway.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when is day one where I'm at. That's a question. But I'll be seeing it that day one anyway.
Yeah. Final thoughts then, because I love this. I'm all keen for this. And
Looking
the response
forward
as well.
to it. Fingers crossed, hoping for the best.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm excited. I want to see it. And a lot of people have the same thoughts we do. Back to basics, all these things in the chat. I'm there.
Yeah, I mean the comments here are great. All seems really, really good. So yeah, I'm keen for this. We do have some super chats which came through about this specifically as well. So we'll get to this now as part of this segment. So Justin Martins drops in with $5. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Says, when does this Alien movie occur in the timeline? So just to reiterate and clarify the previous comments from Fede Alvarez, 20 years after Alien. 20 years after Alien. So 30 years before Aliens. And again, thank you so much for that as well. We get heavy demonetization here, so it does genuinely help out quite a lot.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Wartooth88 says, does this mean Weyland-Yutani knew goddamn well what Burke was up to and thought either he'll succeed or die? Either way, it's a win-win for the company. Yes. I mean, it's long-standing that the company knew about the alien. We all knew that. Like, its mother knew what the alien was in Alien. It's pretty clear-cut, get the specimen at all costs, Ash, etc. Crew expendable. They know what it is. They want it. So they have an idea of what it is. And then obviously this further elaborates even more so on what that is. And then it adds even more layers to Aliens. And it looks like because I saw one of the comments coming through was like, for Aliens, then doesn't this break canon because Weyland-Yutani didn't know? The board room, right? The sort of debriefing room of certain board members didn't know. But it doesn't mean that there aren't certain levels and a hierarchy within Weyland-Yutani, and we don't know what board that is. It's clearly just a debriefing board, right?
3 words.
So just
3 words. Need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Different layers, different hierarchies.
Need to know basis, because even before the events of the first movie, the higher echelons of Weyland-Yutani, they know. And maybe because they're a government contractor or something, they know. And for all we know, they could have been the Nostromo could have been diverted specifically for that purpose, been
Yeah,
sent on that run. That could be the
exactly.
real reason why they were there. I mean, that's a prequel that's still waiting to be happening. There's one that would be entirely justified because there's a backstory that we know nothing of. Because the higher echelons of Weyland Yutani, they know of the aliens. They have had some kind of previous encounter with them.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Dark Hierophant drops in with $2. Says hopes no DEI consultants like Sweet Baby Inc are attached. I don't think so. And it looks like as
The
well.
only thing you'd have is within Disney because Fox is now Disney, and
Yes.
they're going to
Well,
have to go through their own DEI measurements of the movie. So the movie will be subject to, it needs to have so many women, it needs to have so and so many black people. Case
yeah.
in point, the android is black in this one. If the actor playing him is gay or something, then so much the better. And that's how they reach their DEI points. And
But
then maybe
I
one
will.
of them has been oppressed in the movie or something.
But I will say something positive though about all of that because you're going to rain on people's parade there. So let me counter that with something positive. Is that this movie was initially intended to be a Hulu release and has been upgraded to a theatrical release. In fact, it was pretty much decided day one. You know, they're filming. Yeah, let's just chuck this in theaters straight away. So it goes to show that actually they have one, confidence in the movie, but two, they'd actually left them to it a significant amount of time. This is bodes very, very well, actually. Yes, they'll have their quotas initially, but it doesn't look like they've done anything to shoehorn anything in outside of that or meddle in it. 20th Century Fox has a renowned history of meddling. So the fact that this was a Hulu movie just shows that they were like, yeah, just get on with it, which is great. That's good. That's what you want them to do. You don't want executives getting involved. So, yeah. We've got some super chats which came in about this again over on Streamlabs, which you can find pinned to the top or down below, guys. Please do check that out. So we've got one from, let me just scroll down. We've got one from High Def 10. Says, after listening to you guys, Alien Romulus sounds terrible. I'm looking forward to it as much as I want to see another Yaira trailer. Fisher Price production. Boo. But not everyone can enjoy it. And obviously, you know, your opinion matters as well, good sir. I would ask, though, High Def 10, why? Why does it sound terrible? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me scroll back up. We've also got one from D for $20. Says this better get clipped. Well, this will be part of the clip. Says I'm working hard typing this bullshit. Romulus, I'm a little excited, a little happy with the trailer, and I really hope they do not completely F it up. I have an original Aliens movie poster above me, TV, bit of a fan. What an absolute legend you are, D, my dude. Genuinely. Thank you so much. WCW2793, super chatted at $3. Says Alien Romulus trailer looks great. Hope it delivers because I think Fede Alvarez could do a live action Dead Space film. Was it the Dead Space remains? Was it the dead remains of the big chap they find, or is it still alive? Can't say too much about that. And Chris Williams, super chat at $5, says my only complaint with Romulus is the lead actress is 5'1" tall. Why is that a complaint that she's short?
Here's the thing: if people need to remind, like, no one is going to beat an alien in hand-to-hand combat anyway.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay, so fine. If the lead, let's just say that that it was a big, strong man. Well, the strength of that big, strong man is completely useless against an alien because it's faster, stronger, more lethal anyway. You're still literally an insect compared to it. I mean, it's not a fair fight in the slightest. The only way you are going to stand a chance is if you have a weapon and you can kill or burn the thing from a distance. Because in hand-to-hand combat, it's going to win, no matter how big or strong you are. So you might as well have a physically smaller and weaker lead, because it's not going to make any difference.
Yeah,
Not against an alien.
I mean, they've never fought them, so I don't think it matters that her height. But all right. We've got one from Horseradish Power. It says, the more I hear of Alien Romulus, the more I hate it.
Oh,
it should have a strong girl boss and a timid but courageous sidekick. I suggest Miss Piggy and Kermit. That aside, it sounds promising. I'm now interested in this. We'll want to see more. There you go.
That was fun.
We also have, again, just trying to make sure we got all this. We got one from Hello Computer for $5. Says, cool to think about the source of the alien on the station.
Yes.
Spoilers. Can't say too much about that. Justin Martins for $5 says, I want to like it. The diverse cast gives me pause, but have to remind myself alien movies were always that way. Hope it's good. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they were always diverse. They genuinely always were.
Yeah.
I
do understand where he's coming from, though, because if there's anything that we have been conditioned to in cinema the last, well, certainly since 2016, is that diversity in cinema equals shit woke movie. I mean, those two, they tend to correspond quite a great deal, but most movies are shit whether they're diverse or not right now. So that's the real thing. I mean, the movie's going to be good or it's not going to be good, and the diversity isn't necessarily part of that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go.